Hello and welcome to Sake Revolution. This is America's first sake podcast. And I'm your host, John Puma from the Sake Notes, also administrator over at the Internet Sake Discord. And on this show, I'm that guy who's not the sake samurai.
And I'm your host, Timothy Sullivan. I am a sake samurai. I'm also a sake educator, as well as the founder of the Urban Sake website. And every week, John and I will be here tasting and chatting about all things sake and doing our best to make it fun and easy to understand.
All right, Tim, as we cruise through the beginning weeks of 2022, what's in store for us today?
Well, I wanted us to try a super unique pairing.
Ooh.
Sake and food together.
Wait, I got to cook?
No, you don't have to cook.
Oh, that's good because I don't have anything prepared.
But we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. We're actually going to be eating our sake, not drinking it.
Eating it.
Yes. We're going to eat our sake.
All right, I'm going to need a little more color on this, I think. and we may need to shake up the format a bit because, it seems a little different.
There are some really unique food and sake pairings out there. There's sake and cheese, sake and Thai food, sake and pizza. But there's a pairing that I tasted a long time ago, and I really, really wanted to share it with you. So I prepared some for you and for myself. Mm-hmm. And to get started, I wanted to introduce the sake first, because this sake is super unique. And in my classes, I've been using it for many, many years to introduce kind of a really unusual style of sake. So the type of sake we're going to be drinking is called kijoshu. Have you ever heard of that before?
I have heard of kijoshu. I believe I might have tasted kijoshu, but my understanding of it would not be in a position where I could explain kijoshu, apart from the idea that I know it's aged.
Yes. Aging is part of it, but the primary definition of kijoshu is you're brewing a batch of sake, you build up the mash. We talked about this in our sake production series. When you put together a tank of sake, you don't add all the ingredients on one day. You add them little by little over 4 days. And what kijoshu is that the fourth and final day of adding ingredients to a tank of sake, normally, you would add a whole bunch of water on that last day.
Sure.
With kijoshu, we replace that water with finished sake.
Huh?
So the mash is fortified with finished sake instead of water.
That sounds fortifying.
Yes. Yes. So kijoshu is not a common style of sake. There's only about 30 breweries in Japan that are currently producing a kijoshu commercially. And they are aged to different degrees. Some breweries make a lighter style of kijoshu that is maybe aged a year or two. And some, like the sake we're tasting today, age for many, many years. And the reason for that is that addition of sake instead of water when you're building up the mash brings in a lot of extra glucose or sugar into the mash. So this turns into a very sweet dessert-style sake. That's what kijoshu is really well known for, is this kind of, think of a sauterne type wine, or if it's aged a long time, even like a sherry. So it's very concentrated, very rich, and quite sweet.
Okay.
So the sake that we're tasting, the kijoshu, the particular one that I picked for this really unique pairing, is called Hanahato 8-year aged kijoshu.
Hanahato, if I'm not mistaken, is from Hiroshima, right?
That's right.
All right. Yes, I've had some of their other sake in the past.
Yeah, and I read online, they say on their website that they're the first brewery to release, in the modern era, to release a kijoshu commercially. That was back in 1974. And their portfolio includes a number of different kijoshu. So this is something they're really known for. I actually saw on their website they have a 30-year aged kijoshu for sale.
What? So let me get this straight. They have only been doing this since 1974, and they have a 30-year-old kijoshu. This is the long game, Tim.
Yes. Yeah. And
wow.
That's something they're really known for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me introduce the stats for this Hanahato kijoshu. So it says right in the name, it's aged for 8 years. And as you mentioned, it's from Hiroshima Prefecture. The brand name is Hanahato, but the brewery name is Inoki Shuzo. Mm-hmm. And this has a rice milling percentage of 65%. Mm-hmm. And that is milled on a type of Hiroshima rice, Chusei Shinsenbon.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I read that that's a local rice for Hiroshima Prefecture. Mm-hmm. The alcohol percentage... Oh, sorry.
No, please continue.
The alcohol percentage is just over 16%. And where things get interesting is the SMV, our sake meter value, minus 44.
So yeah, a moment ago when I laughed for a moment, I saw that. That's what I was laughing at.
Yes. And another stat that is kind of off the charts is our acidity, 3.5. Normally, acidity is between 1.0 and 2.0. This brings us up to 3.5.
You know, Tim, I think this may qualify as crazy style. Could be wrong, but I don't know.
It's definitely a fringe style of sake, but it is so delicious and so unique. I really wanted to introduce you to this very special pairing. All right. So before we get into the pairing and reveal what that's going to be, why don't we open this sake up and have a taste straight? Just sip on this sake on its own without the food pairing.
Straight. You're making it sound like we're drinking whiskey, Tim.
All right. So I'm going to open up the bottle.
Oh, dear.
Okay. So I poured. And what do we notice right away?
This looks like tea. That's what I noticed right away.
Yes, it is very dark in color.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. This looks like English, like tea.
Yeah. Or maybe even soy sauce. It's like, or tempura sauce. It's got a dark brown color to it.
Yeah. Not soy sauce, but tempura sauce I could definitely see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, super dark in color, and we know it's aged for 8 years, so that's not a mystery there. I read this was aged in stainless steel, so this is not coming from any wood or any barrel or anything like that. So it's just room temperature aging for 8 years, and let's give it a smell.
Ooh, there's a lot going on there. Wow.
Yes. Yes. It's smoky. It's dark. It's concentrated. Mushroomy. Anything else you're picking up on?
It's definitely, remember a while back we talked about how we had a koshu and on our koshu episode, and the koshu stimulated the whiskey lover part of John's brain.
Yes.
This is doing that as well.
Yes.
It's got a little like almost chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
On the nose. Very not your average sake.
Right. This is something special. And this is the type of sake that I feel you can really study. Like, you don't have to rush into drinking it. You can take your time, sip it, swirl it, sip it again, and really take your time with it. Just like you would a bourbon or whiskey, right?
Yeah. And yeah, for most bourbons and whiskeys, you don't want to just, maybe depending on your event, but normally I would say you don't want to just pound that. You want to enjoy it, savor it, really experience it, because there's so much going on. And this has a lot of that here as well.
Yeah. There's also a note of caramelization as well.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you think about dark caramel aromas as well. Concentrated sweetness.
Yeah. It's just so much aroma on this. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 8 years is a long time to age a sake.
Yeah, it is tremendously long to age a sake. And as you pointed out, in lieu of that final water push, they're just adding more sake. So very interesting.
Yes, that right out of the gate, when this sake is made as a kijoshu, it's going to be rich. It's going to be super viscous to begin with, and very high in sugar. So take that, concentrate it for 8 years, and then you get the Hanahato kijoshu.
Yeah, it's a little bit of like almost like honey too. Like a really, really, really dark honey.
Yep.
But wow.
Yeah. What I think of when I smell this is kind of caramel corn, like popcorn with caramel kind of poured on it. So you get a little bit of that grain note in the background, and then the smell of the caramel on top. That's one aroma note that I'm picking up on as well.
That's interesting, Tip. So you say caramel.
Caramel?
Yeah.
Caramel?
I say caramel.
Oh, caramel.
Yeah. No, that's a battle in my house for years. It's my shell says caramel.
Am I team my shell?
she says caramel. Maybe it's just a New York City thing and we say caramel. I don't know.
We'll leave that fight for another day.
We will.
We're both team kijoshu, right?
Oh yes, this is very interesting stuff.
Yes. All right. Well, enough sniffing.
Now we're doing some sipping.
Let's start sipping.
Oh boy.
All right. I'm going to give it a taste. Here we go.
Wow.
Super rich.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Intense. It tastes like concentrated raisins and plums, and it's got a really concentrated dark fruity note to it. A little bit smoky, a little bit mushroomy, lots of umami, but sweetness there as well.
Mm-hmm. And I get a little bit of chocolate on this.
Yep.
Chocolate or coffee almost, or coffee chocolate combination. But the fruits, that fruit flavor, that aged fruit is in there as well. It reminds me a lot of like desserts that have fruit integrated with like a chocolate of some sort.
Yeah. And I also think really high quality dark chocolate can have those fruity notes in it as well. And that's really coming across here. So I love that tasting note of chocolate, like dark, high quality dark chocolate.
Yeah. This is
really rich and concentrated.
Reminds me a little bit of sherry also.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about nuttiness? I get a little bit of nuttiness as well. If you think about like almond or maybe a little hazelnut.
I'm with you on the hazelnut.
Okay.
I'm with you on the hazelnut. Yeah, there's just so much going on here. Wow.
Yeah. Really, really unique.
Yeah, and as we said earlier, it's very much like this is not something you're just gonna throw back. This is something that you're really, there's so much to explore with it, and you need to go in there and sip it multiple times slowly to really uncover everything that's happening here.
Yep. Now, I'm going to tell you some of the classic pairings with this sake. These are not going to be what we're having today.
Okay.
But there are some pretty classic pairings to have with this style of really aged, concentrated sake. So one pairing that I hear a lot with this is actually cigars.
Really?
Cigars, yes.
Well,
I'm not a smoker at all. I know that people who like whiskey sometimes have a cigar every now and again.
yes. The whiskey with a cigar is a thing. I have also heard of like sherry with a cigar. So
Yeah.
I can see that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I am not a cigar person at all, but some people really enjoy them and have them occasionally, and it's just fun if you're into cigars to find a sake that you can enjoy with your cigar. So I just wanted to mention that for all the cigar lovers out there. And another A food pairing that is often recommended with this style of sake is foie gras.
Really?
Yes. I've heard many people say that that's a really good pairing as well.
Right.
That's another we got cigars and foie gras. It's super controversial on the show today. These,
Definitely outside of our comfort zone, Tim.
yes. Yes.
This is not fruity and I don't think is very much in common with Yamagata sake at all.
And one of the tasting notes that we mentioned about this sake is dark chocolate, and that's actually a pairing you can use as well.
Ooh.
So nibbling on some dark chocolate and sipping on that. What do you think about that?
I mean, if I had dark chocolate handy, I would immediately try it.
Yeah. And also, you mentioned coffee as well, and I think any of those mocha desserts, like chocolate mousse, dark chocolate mousse, would be great.
My sweet tooth is tingling.
Yes. Yes. One of my all-time favorite desserts is chocolate pudding. So chocolate mousse is right in that zone, and it's absolutely one of my favorites. All right. Well, I mentioned at the top of the show that we are not going to be drinking this sake anymore.
We're going to be eating Tim, we've been drinking this sake for a little while now.
Well, for our pairing, we're not going to be drinking this sake.
Aha.
Yes. And we're not cooking with this sake either. So what the heck are we doing? Well, John, the big reveal, we are going to be enjoying the Hanahato kijoshu poured over vanilla ice cream.
Well, that sounds like fun. So, wait, are we like affogadoing sake?
Yes, we are affogadoing sake.
Oh, that sounds like
You've been affogadoed.
Nice. For those of you at home who don't know what affogado is, it is, I think it's attributed to being an Italian thing, but it is basically like espresso poured over ice cream. And
yes,
it does wonderful things to both the espresso and the ice cream. So I have never done this before with sake, and I'm excited.
Yes. So, John, we've prepared some vanilla ice cream for you, and I've got some vanilla ice cream here. Just going to put a scoop in my bowl.
Working on it. Now, I have to warn you in advance, Tim. I am a staunch proponent of vanilla ice cream. I know a lot of people think vanilla is boring, but they're wrong. And that's okay.
Vanilla is amazing.
they're allowed to be boring.
Vanilla
They're allowed
can
to
be
be
amazing.
Wrong. Vanilla is a wonderful, wonderful flavor of ice cream.
Yes. Agreed.
So
no argument
here. Okay, so now I have a cup. I have some vanilla ice cream in my cup. There's a bottle of sake in my hand. How much goes in here? Do I just pour it on top or what?
Yeah, just pour it on top. I would say 1 to 2 tablespoons. Just like a little affogato treatment.
I'm going to eyeball that because I don't have a tablespoon handy. Ooh, okay. All right. It has been affogadoed.
Okay, so we've poured our 8-year-aged kijoshu on vanilla ice cream, and now we're going to pair
this. I think it's the first time we've ever done a pairing on Sake Revolution.
Live on,
We don't have food here.
Live on air.
All right.
Okay.
So here we go.
I'm going in.
All right. Tim, this is working for me.
Yeah. So the ice cream is starting to melt, and it's making a little kijoshu syrup in the bottom of the bowl.
I'm going to add a tiny bit more kijoshu to my mix.
Yeah.
So I think my ice cream is dominating the scene a little bit. This works.
I think it helps that your favorite flavor of ice cream is vanilla.
Doesn't hurt. This is fantastic. This is really nice.
It's fun, right?
Yeah.
For me, it really brings out the nuttiness, like that hazelnut note we were talking about. That really comes forward a little bit more for me when you have it with the vanilla flavor together.
There's a fun bit of interplay between the ice cream and the sake. It's just like because the sake is so rich and has such strong flavors, and vanilla, has great flavor on its own, but it's a little bit passive. So by itself, you can, it tastes great. But when you add something to it, the thing you're adding to it really shines. And so it's giving me a little bit of it's just really bringing a lot of those flavors in the kijoshu to the forefront and giving me a different spin on them, which is a lot of fun. It's kind of like when you take a genshu and you have it on the rocks. You're kind of opening it up, and it's changing the way it's expressing itself in a way. But yeah, this is really fun. Actually, I've like I said, I've never done this before, and I'm kind of digging this right now.
I don't think this would work with many sakes, but this one is so unique and really special. And when I used to teach sake classes years ago, this was one of the sakes that was in the portfolio that I could choose from. And we wanted to do a dessert pairing of some kind, and we first paired it just with dark chocolate, and then I had them get some vanilla ice cream. We poured this on top, and everyone went crazy for it. So this pairing has always been in the back of my mind, and I'm so glad I was able to introduce it to you.
Yeah, I am sold. This is a fun pairing.
Yeah. No glass needed. Put your ochoko away. But I do have to say, after several spoonfuls, you can feel the alcohol kind of warming you up and hitting you a little bit, right?
Yeah. This is a fantastic, boozy desserts and that kind of idea is a thing. And it's always been something that I've had a hard time harnessing. And this is working. This is really nice. I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, when you say boozy desserts, people often think of rum desserts, like rum-soaked cakes and things like that, and I really don't like that.
No, not at all. Not your thing.
But this is a boozy dessert that I can get behind.
Yeah, I actually am really, and this is a little weird, but I'm actually enjoying the sake a little bit more as part of this mix.
Yes.
And
yes,
for the record, I am somebody who likes to have his whiskeys on the rocks. So this tracks. I wonder if I would like this on the rocks. I'm having it with ice cream and I'm really enjoying it.
I totally think this is a sake you could put on a whiskey ice cube and sip on it. It's not super high in alcohol. It's just little bit above 16% alcohol. But it's high enough that I think you could enjoy this on a nice big ice cube and sip it out of a double old-fashioned glass and really enjoy it.
Well, might be doing that later.
Yeah. So, there's not a lot of pairings where you eat your sake.
No, I'm going to say, this is a sake as a dessert topping, almost.
Watch your back, Hershey's syrup. I'm coming for you.
Hanahato is coming for you.
But there is one other eat your sake pairing that I know of. And we don't have this prepared for today. Maybe we can do this for a future episode. But I wanted to run one other idea by you.
Oh, what's that?
How do you feel about oysters? Are you an oyster person?
No, I am very texture focused in my food tastes, and oysters, sadly for me, really get filed under slimy.
Yes,
and so I have a really hard time with them.
So they don't pass the Puma texture test.
They do not pass the Puma texture test. And again, it's nothing wrong with oysters. It's me. I know this. But I've got a weird hang up about them. But please, for our listeners at home who are not lunatics like me, what can they do with oysters and sake?
Well, if we ever go out for oysters, John, do not worry. I am such an oyster lover that I will eat your portion and then eat my portion.
Fantastic. So I've been looking for you all my life.
Nothing will go to waste. Oyster on the half shell, or raw oysters, is something that I love. And when I was growing up, our parents would often take us to Cape Cod for summer vacations, and that's where my love for oysters started. Probably started with deep fried oysters and then moved on to oyster on the half shell. But what you can do if you have a plate of ice with the oyster on the half shell on it, a lot of people take mignonette sauce or, they put all these sauces and sometimes they squeeze lemon on it. But one trick that is amazing that more people have to do, take a nice, dry, clean, light sake and sprinkle a little sake on the oyster before you slurp it down. It is fantastic. So good.
All right.
It brings some umami. It brings some acidity. And it just really highlights the flavor of the oyster, which is briny and umami driven. And that's another eat your sake pairing that I highly recommend.
All right. I will bear that in mind if I ever get over my oyster hang-up.
And if you stray from either of these two eat your sake pairings, I think you start to get into the world of cooking with sake. We could do a whole series on that. But cooking with sake is really interesting as well. But I wanted to talk today about this eating it raw, no cup needed. And with the oyster and with the ice cream, it's really, really fun way to introduce people to sake, I think.
That makes sense. Also, if we wanted to do cooking with sake on the show, we'd have to get a whole kitchen set going on and maybe some cameras. I'll have to get used to saying BAM a lot.
And we'd have to get a chef,
and
too.
Probably a chef.
Okay, so update. My ice cream has really melted down, and the consistency of my vanilla ice cream in the bowl is now like soft serve. And oh my gosh, it is so good. It has mellowed out the kijoshu, which was a little sharp on the first sip, but now that it's mixed with the cream and it's nice and cold, it is almost like a dessert drink alongside the ice cream.
I have an idea that I might need to experiment with in the near future. Vanilla shake with some of this kijoshu in it. Like blended into the shake.
Yeah.
Like how wonderful do you think that would be? I think because you'll get, with every sip, you're going to get a little bit of the ice cream. You're going to get some of that kijoshu flavor. It's going to be really nice.
Yeah. It's almost like Bailey's Irish cream, like cream with whiskey.
Yes.
It's like this is...
Yeah, there's cocktail potential here. Also,
yes.
I want to say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's another show idea, sake cocktails for sure.
You could probably make a really mean, White Russian with this. Kahlua and milk and vodka.
Oh, God.
Or without vodka, with or without vodka. So it's Kahlua with milk. So what I'm saying is kijoshu and milk would probably work well. Since that's, at this point, when it's melted down on our plates, it's basically what it is.
Yeah.
I think that if you substitute the kijoshu instead of the Kahlua, it's going to give you a lot of those same ideas, except you're going to get a little bit more of this vibrancy that we're getting from this kijoshu. Kahlua can be a little plain sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have to say this melted/melting ice cream with the kijoshu is so good.
Very nice.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Look at this. We found some new things. Okay. And you had this, you've been hiding this from me all these years?
I have. I was waiting until
the right moment.
Today. Yes. I always joke, we talk about doburoku, which is the completely unfiltered sake. I always joke about that sake is so thick you can eat it with a fork.
But a fork?
This is actually something that you can eat with a spoon. Because it is so good as a dessert topping. Affogato. I'm turning that into a verb from now on.
Do you affogato something?
I've been affogadoed.
Oh no.
All right. Okay, John, so what's your takeaway from today? How do you feel about eating your sake?
On the show, it's nice that occasionally I get to learn something completely new. Usually it's kind of like I'm refreshing myself on concepts concepts I've known before, sakes I've tasted, things like that. Really going in a little more depth on ideas that I have an understanding of. And this is something that was like really brand new for me. I never really dug into kijoshu or really any kind of ice cream and sake pairing, to be completely honest. So that was the part that was brand new. Very little experience with kijoshu. And so getting to kind of explore both of them today was a lot of fun. When we get to the end of the year, we start talking about our favorite episodes of 2022. I hope I remember to talk about this because this is great.
Yeah. I mean, with a super unique sake and vanilla ice cream, not much can go wrong, but I'm so happy it worked out, and I'm really glad you liked it. And we'll have more surprises like this in 2022 for sure.
Excellent.
Yes. Well, enjoy the rest of your ice cream, John. And while you're doing that, I want to take a moment and thank all of our listeners for tuning in. If you are ice cream fans, grab some kijoshu, get some ice cream, and give this a try at home. I think you'll like it. Now, if you would like to show your support for Sake Revolution, one of the best ways to help us out would be to join our community on Patreon. All the support that we receive on Patreon goes to the costs of editing, hosting, and bringing you Sake Revolution every week. And we are a listener-supported show.
Sorry, it's really good. You can go ahead and support us over at patreon.com/sakerevolution. And if you are not looking to become a patron, don't worry. There are plenty of other ways that you can support our show. One of them, you're doing it right now. Just listening. Listening to the show, it really does help us a great deal. But once more, you can also tell your friends, tell your family, get them to write a review on their podcast platform of choice, provided they enjoy the show. That's a great way to get the word out. It really does help. Gets more ears on the show, which is exactly what we want.
And as always, if you would like to learn more about any of the topics, ice creams, or sakes that we talked about in today's episode, be sure to visit our website, sakerevolution.com, and there you can check out the detailed show notes.
And if you have a sake question that you need answered, we would very much like to hear from you. Please reach out to us at feedback@sakerevolution.com. So, until next time, please keep eating ice cream, drinking sake, and
Kanpai!